All right, guys. Our next guest is an accomplished amateur wrestler from the University of Oklahoma, setting a record 30 pins during one season. That's pretty crazy. He was known as Jack Swagger to many during his time with the WWE, a run that saw him win the ECW World Heavyweight and United States Championship, as well as the Money in the Bank in 2010. He is now signed and getting ready for his Bellator MMA debut. Jake Hager, welcome for the first time to Submission Rate. It's great to have you, man.
Hey, thank you guys. One hell of an introduction. Thank you.
Yeah, it could have been longer, but that was kind of the condensed version. We figured, highlights only. We'll leave the best stuff. Gotta ask you though, man. Your name is Donald Jacob Hager. So when you fight, what name will it be under for Bellator? What will be the official name? And also, between Jack, Jake, and Donald, does it ever become confusing for people and too many names for them to call you when they talk to you?
As long as you're not calling me stupid, I'm okay with it. So I will be fighting under Jake Hager. So my real name is Jake Hager. That's what I'll be fighting under. We tried to get to use Jack Swagger, but that is just taking too long. So it is going to be Jake Hager. Sorry, I'm taking you a tour around my house.
No, that's
fast. Cool. And, it's crazy how similar my real name is with my gimmick name. And it's funny because when I was in high school and college, everyone would say, "Hey, Hager, you want to go get some pizza or something?" And now that I'm Jack Swagger, they're always like, Swagger, do you want to go do this? So I guess I'm not allowed to use first names. You just got to call me by my last name. That's just the way it goes.
Well, we're looking at your Twitter, and it seems like you're still wrestling a lot. We remember you were in Australia shortly after leaving WWE last year, and you haven't really stopped wrestling since. Roughly, how many matches would you say you do a week, and how much traveling would you typically be doing now that you're wrestling sort of on the independent circuit?
So instead of doing like 4 to 5 matches a week, I'm doing 2 to 3, usually Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday, and then either home Sunday or a home Monday. So it's been a great big learning curve, actually. The first year, you're just trying to get on your feet and, accommodate yourself to the new routine and everything. And so the second year has been a lot easier. I got the travel figured out, the days that I want to work. And then, of course, trying to juggle the training in between the shows is really the fun part. But, be careful what you wish for. So I asked for it, so give it to me, babe.
Yeah, you're a busy man between the wrestling and the MMA training. And we know these indie shows obviously can be, quite a bit of an experience. What's a funny travel or sort of indie wrestling story that's happened since you've left WWE that stands out to you?
Let's see here.
I know in Australia, I noticed you were wearing some board shorts. I went to the show, you had some board shorts and a t-shirt on. Looks like someone stole your wrestling gear or something.
Oh my gosh, what did I pack wrong for that trip? I came to your winter with board shorts and tank tops like I'm going to the beach. By the time I was leaving there, I had 2 pairs of tights on, 2 sweatshirts, a jacket, just freezing. I haven't had too many crazy funny stories travel-wise. I got asked to leave a plane one time because I asked the pilot a question, and then he told everyone that I threatened him, which is pretty ridiculous.
What was the question? What did you ask?
I think I said, "Are you a dickhead?" Can I say that?
Why?
What
brought this on? I can't imagine you just walked on a plane and went, "Hey, are you a dickhead?" How did this start?
No, what really happened was, I was joking earlier, guys. Come on. What really happened is I boarded the plane, and I was in Manchester, England, and I was coming home, and I woke up, and we're still on the same runway, and I had a connection in Amsterdam. It was the lucky 3 flights to get back to the States.
Wow.
Travel. And I knew I had missed it, so I was just trying to get a little more information, and they weren't giving it to me. And so I got a little angry, but we just got off the plane and flew out the next day.
I think it's a good, valid question to ask before you go on the plane and someone controls your destiny up in the sky. Are you a dickhead? Should be a part of like the security check that the stewardesses do when they take out the little vests and show you the little light and whistle that's apparently going to save your life if you crash. Let's talk about the WWE, because I guess a lot of people that haven't heard from you in a little while would be wondering why you sort of left. A lot of wrestlers seem to sort of stick around and just sort of collect the paycheck, even if the company's not doing much with them. Tell us, what was sort of your decision in leaving? Because I believe you've been with the company for quite some time, pretty much since you finished college. That was sort of your home for a long time.
Yeah. Well, the WWE, it's a dream job, but it's like any other job where there's politics and you got bosses that you have to deal with. And so for me, in the great words of Drizzy Drake, the moment I stop having fun with it, I'm done with it. So it got to the point where not that I wasn't having fun, because, going out there in front of thousands of fans and wrestling, it's what I'm born to do. But it came to a point where I wasn't there for the same reasons that they were having me there. Like I need to compete. And that's one thing that I take away from leaving WWE is I will never go this long without competing again, because it's a part of who I am. And when I'm not competing is when I will struggle with things, because I'm not going 100% or focused 100%. So for me, it was a combination of two things. Just I needed a change. I needed to be pushed. I needed to be challenged. And also, it was a great opportunity. It was a great time to leave. It's a great time to be a pro wrestler right now. As you guys said, I'm working nonstop since I left the company. It's also a great time to be a pro fighter. So that's also why I left. I knew that I had this opportunity ahead of me and that I needed to leave to focus on it and really give MMA 125%. And, as well as capitalize on the great TV exposure that I received over the last 12 years.
And just on that competitiveness that you have inside you, obviously some of the guys in the back of the WWE are legitimate tough guys and obviously phenomenal wrestlers, guys like Kurt Angle, and the most notable probably other than yourself is Brock Lesnar. Did you guys ever compare wrestling skill sets? Obviously Brock back in the day, he had sort of the competitions between Kurt Angle in the back, him and Kurt Hennig. Did you guys ever sort of have a wrestler to see who was sort of the best wrestler in the back amongst the boys?
I mean, by compare wrestling techniques, you mean that I can take Brock Lesnar down at will? Yes, then we compared wrestling techniques. I could close my eyes and tie one hand behind my back, and I could bounce Brock Lesnar's forehead off the mat if he ever tried to wrestle with me.
Did you guys test it out for real in the back one of the times, or you didn't get the opportunity?
No, we never had the opportunity, but that's what would happen. So you could just say that it did happen.
Because I guess for a long time, especially during his UFC run, a lot of people have built up the fact that he's an NCAA wrestler. But from a wrestling perspective, a lot of people have talked about the fact that it's not really technique with Brock. It's more kind of raw power and athleticism. How would you rate his technique and sort of what he can do when it comes to amateur wrestling?
Well, anybody who just tries to use raw power and athleticism, you're not going to be a national champion. You're not going to be on scholarship wrestling in college. You may be a good high school wrestler. You may be all right junior high, but I'll ask for give me the big raw power athletic guy every time, and my technique will beat you. It's just that type of game where you need the technique, you need the strategy, you need the psychology. And so people who say that about Brock, they just really don't know what they're talking about, because you don't get to the level where he's at without technique.
How would you compare him and Daniel Cormier's wrestling, and I guess his chances against Cormier? A lot of people leaning towards DC, but he's coming in straight into this title shot against him right now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, Brock, but I'm rooting for DC. He went to Oklahoma State. I went to Oklahoma. We're kind of arch rivals, but at the same time, when we're not fighting each other, we root for each other. DC has really developed his wrestling strengths into a great striking game. He works for the underhooks, and as soon as he gets that head tie on you, he's coming with the uppercut, or he's coming with that right hook. And as you saw what he did with Stipe, if I pronounced that correctly, it really neutralized on the feet, and made it look like Miocic was just standing right there in front of Cormier, which we all know he wasn't. But Cormier's technique and the way that he utilized his uppercut and his right hook, once he got into that head tie and got close, that was the game changer. So I would look for Cormier to continue to do this strategy, because if you break down his films, you can see that he does this with a lot of people. He did it with Gustafsson. He did it with Rumble Johnson. This is something that he has worked on and perfected over the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, because we've heard a lot of times, sometimes when you're in a pro wrestling match, things get out of control and don't go to plan. Have you ever had to use your amateur wrestling to sort of calm things down a little bit and show people who's boss?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sometimes the amateur wrestling doesn't send the right message. Like if you squeeze someone down and put the clamps on, they're still squirming a little bit. Sometimes you just got to use the old right hand to get them to calm down. You can ask Cesaro about this. I'm friends with Brodus Clay, but we were tagging with him on Raw one day, and he just wasn't getting the message. And Cesaro was hitting him pretty hard, and he tagged me in, and I started hitting him hard, and he still wasn't getting the message. So me and Tony just kind of looked at each other, and I hit him with everything I had. I'm pretty sure he went down.
So it wasn't the wrestling you used; it was the fists you used. You hit him with some potatoes, right?
Yeah, I got a little frustrated. I guess I could have done a duck under and taken him down, but
just quickly, obviously we know you were watching the UFC while you were in the WWE, but how popular is MMA amongst the guys in the back? Is it something you guys discussed, something you guys closely followed, or was it just something that you found that you closely kept your eye on because you always sort of wanted to get into MMA once you got out of the WWE?
As far as the roster at the WWE, I'd say it was 60-40. Most guys would enjoy it, want to talk about it. Guys like Daniel Bryan, Jamie Noble, always had it on their laptops if we were at a live event on a Saturday night or something. And a lot of times we would go and support Brock, and during his fights, if we could make it to a restaurant afterwards, and that had it on. I think it's like the rest of the world. MMA, everyone is kind of learning the rules, because it is a steep learning curve to understand what's going on, and it's becoming very popular.
Well, one of the things is, while you're making your way and transitioning into the world of MMA, tell us just quickly, what do you think of Ronda Rousey and her transition into pro wrestling? Because a lot of people are sort of comparing her as a Kurt Angle, almost skilled potential wrestler, with the quickness that she's picked up the sport and the success that she's had. Are you impressed with what you've seen from her?
I'm sorry, Ronda. I haven't got to see your work yet. I did see the sweet eyeliner she had on for SummerSlam, though. And I don't know if you guys watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but she was dressed just like the Nightman. Google Nightman and tell me I'm wrong.
She also looked like Uncle Leo from Seinfeld when he lost his eyebrows.
Oh man, the memes about that were great. So of course, on to you. You're getting ready to transition to MMA with Bellator. Talk to us about how you fit your sort of training schedule in around the traveling and wrestling, because we imagine, I guess, it's a bit of a process. And I guess here's the thing: you were originally supposed to fight this year, sometime in 2018. You said potentially 2 times. Is that still the goal? Do you think you still will fight this year?
Yeah, I think I absolutely will fight in 2018. It's too late now to fight in 2000 or to fight twice in 2018. I got real busy with professional wrestling, with Lucha Underground back at the beginning of the year. Bellator's been great to work with. They allowed me to do that and continue, making a name for myself outside of the octagon, which just goes for miles and miles for someone that I want to work with. It really means a lot when they make it easy and they make you feel like you're wanted there. I think the training has been going great. I've really been doing Friday, Saturday, Sunday shows, and then Monday through Thursday, coming home and hitting that 2-a-day button. Very, very lucky to have this team around me that I do. I pretty much went to Dave Batista and said, give me your team. And these guys have adopted me. I've known a lot of them for years before this. And so it was kind of a special thing for them to come on this journey with me. Guys like Josh Rafferty, he's an ex-UFC fighter. Rob Radford, probably the best MMA boxing coach in the biz. Joey Best, owner of Ybor City Jiu-Jitsu. They've been great for allowing all of my training needs. And so, I started really in March of 17. And so from March of 17 until we signed, which was October and November of 17, training was really rough. And it was like, a lot of questions like, can my body do this? Can my body hold up for the training? Can I get back into that competitive shape? Can I stay healthy? Can I actually learn multiple disciplines and be able to apply them effectively on a professional level? And, so it was kind of, you had to really kind of go through stages. You had to climb the ladder and then get to a certain point in order to get better. And so now that I have about 1.5 years of training under my belt, I really am at a much different stage of the training where I feel confident, where I'm thirsty for blood, and I'm ready to go out there. And I can learn so much faster now because I've been working nonstop with the same coaches and building up the arsenal. So like Monday through Thursday has really been like the important times of the week for me. I go out there on the weekends and give everything I have for the wrestling matches, but I'm definitely focusing on the training. I got my wife at home, Catalina Hager, and anytime I'm sore, anytime I have any bumps and bruises, she's great. She's a certified Pilates therapist where she can isolate it and give me the techniques I can to work out,
Nice.
whether it's a small muscle group or if it's pain. And that's really, really going to put me over the edge as far as momentum and the X factor is because at my age, I have to train smart. I have a lot of miles on my body. And so I'm going to push it and I'm going to train hard as hell. But I'm going to do it in a smart way, and I'm going to be proactive taking care of my body. And my wife has just been amazing at that. And really, guys have this, stereotype about Pilates and yoga. And, no, you should be doing this. Everybody should be doing this. It's that amazing. And so learning a lot. I feel like the training's going good. I'm ready for that next light bulb, but we're still planning on November, December of 2018 for Bellator.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned Dave Batista. I saw around Christmas last year, you gave him a little bit of a gift in Sparring and gave him a little bit of a shiner. He put it up on his Instagram, a picture of his face. What exactly went down? Did you guys do a bit of initial sparring when you first joined the team?
Yeah, he's been great to train with, but I think he just bought a really expensive Guardians of the Galaxy doorknob and walked into it. I didn't put that on. He's my friend. I wouldn't do that to him. I got a pretty nice one here myself.
Yeah.
Actually. That's actually from MVP this past weekend in pro wrestling.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, we spoke to Bas Root, and he comes on the show regularly, and he said he never really got injured in MMA, but when he did pro wrestling, that's where he got some of his worst injuries. So it's definitely hard on the body. Let me ask you something. With CM Punk, we saw his training team took a strategy where he sort of had warm-up fights in the gym to prepare him for when he walks out for the first time into the octagon. And with you walking out to Bellator for the first time and being your first pro fight, what kind of strategies are you guys utilizing to prepare you just for the feeling of walking out there, the feeling of walking into the cage for the first time, the feeling of looking across the octagon at your opponent? Because it's very different from pro wrestling. What kind of stuff are you guys doing to prepare you for that?
Well, I don't know if a lot of people know this about me, but I grew up in Oklahoma, and so there's a real big horse fighting ring going on there amongst 10-year-old boys. So I'm going to rely a lot on that, and I'm going to go into the cage the same way I went into that horse fight. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry I'm not funnier.
No, you're good.
Dry humor is good.
Okay. I just wanted to say I can knock out a horse, but
yeah.
That was my grandpa. Yeah, we're definitely going to rely on my amateur wrestling. Our team, our coaches believe that's the most important discipline that you can have. One, because that's where you really get tired with the fights, the accelerations, the getting up, getting down, having someone fall on you, feeling their weight. So we're going to rely on my Division I college background and look at fights similar to a Division I wrestling match, because you're one-on-one out there on an island by yourself where it's just you in 7 minutes. You're alone. Now, the shortest MMA fight will be 15 minutes, or it could be 15 seconds. But we're gonna heavily rely on the mindset that we use for professional wrestling, and then we're also gonna use the experience I have in front of the television cameras. I mean, I performed on the biggest stage of them all, so the bright lights really don't concern me, even though this is, professional fighting. I think, if anything, my background at the WWE, that's going to be a benefit. It's going to really help me with the experience. But then you have to jump into, okay, well, you're still jumping into a professional fight for the first time. So what type of strategies are you going to employ, and how do you prepare for it? Honestly, I'm not going to sit here and sound like I'm this big boxing historian. I'm going to rely on my team. I got a great team around me. I got great coaches around me. So I'm just going to show up and do the work and focus on getting better and want this more than anyone else, and get myself into a shape to where I won't get tired in there. And so if I do find myself into a situation where I'm not used to getting hit, or, I'm in a compromising jiu-jitsu stance, well, then I'm going to rely on my shape to get me out of it and to really keep me cool under pressure. And some combination of those things, once we get close, there's going to be a left foot in there, there's going to be a left hook and a serious right hand, and hopefully a lot of takedowns.
I imagine there'd be a lot of takedowns, of course. I was going to say, in terms of who your first opponent would be, what are you looking for in terms of a first opponent? Of course, you'll be going there, making your pro debut. I know with Aaron Pico, they gave him a go. I think had a 10-fight record. Would you be looking for someone with a low kind of record? I can't imagine you would have a name in mind at this point so early.
Yeah, again, I think that's a little bit above my pay grade. I'm going to rely on my team and my managers to focus on that. I would want someone similar to me, but at the same time, I'm doing this for a reason, so I'm not going to shy away. If the team tells me I'm ready for this person, then let's go get them.
Let's talk a little bit about this heavyweight Grand Prix that's happening in Bellator at the moment. Who do you think's going to you've been watching it closely, I'm guessing. Who do you think's going to win it between Sonnen and Fedor and Bader and Mitrion? Who do you think's going to come out as the ultimate winner of this Grand Prix?
Man, what great semifinals. What great semifinals. You have the Emperor Fedor versus the New Age trash talking bad boy. I just can't wait to see how Fedor handles Chael's antics. You know, I think it's going to be really interesting. The fact that they're doing back-to-back nights is so cool for the semifinals. At the beginning of it, I said Matt Mitrione. I said he's a heavyweight and he's the youngest with the most skill. I thought he did very good against Roy Nelson. Ryan Bader coming off that win against Mo, you know, I think is everyone's number one, everyone's pick to win it. So another great semifinal matchup. I love how they kind of have the light heavyweight versus the returning Emperor, and then they got the two, they got a light heavyweight again in Bader, but they got the two younger guys on the other side ready to go at it. And Matt, you're welcome. Yes, I called you young. You're welcome.
I mean, I know it's still a little ways away, and these guys are at the top of the division and guys with lots and lots of fights. But let's say you do go on a winning streak and you find that this is the right thing for you and you're feeling good. What would be a dream fight for you? I mean, you have legends like Fedor. You have legends, you have guys like Ryan Bader, up-and-coming guys. You have guys like Frank Mir on the roster. Is there a name on there when you close your eyes and imagine sort of a dream matchup for you in front of the crowd of Bellator with a legend that sort of stands out to you?
You know, I always find it interesting when people say that they have these dream matches against these Hall of Fame fighters. Like, no, I don't want to fight a Hall of Fame fighter. A dream match would be fighting a can of Play-Doh or something. That's a dream match. Pay me lots of money. Let me fight a donut.
the MMA equivalent of a squash match, essentially. As we wrap up, Jack.
Well, hey, since you brought that up, let's just get this clear, guys. All right, I'm a jab guy, not a job guy.
No else knows here. As we wrap up, just want to quickly ask, since you're doing all the pro wrestling, a lot of fans are wondering if you'll be coming back down to Australia. Any chance you'll make your way back down here on a trip in between fights to see the Australian crowd again?
Yeah, absolutely. I tried to go back this year with House of Hardcore, but our dates couldn't line up. I know World Series of Wrestling has been doing some amazing tours. All the Americans come back talking about how well they're taken care of and the hospitality. And so I look forward to being a part of that as well. Really, in my mind, I'm going to fight at the end of 2018. I'm going to make a statement, and then in a couple months, I'm going to fight again. Since I'm already, in the shape, I already got the camp going. And then after that, I think it's time to get down to Australia, but I will dress warmer this time.
Well, we can't wait to have you, Jake. Guys, make sure to follow Jake on Twitter at RealJackSwagger. We can't wait to see who your debut is going to be against. Just quickly, as we let you go, I know you used to wrestle at 275, I believe, back in Oklahoma. I see you've really gotten into good shape lately with your MMA training. What kind of weight do you sort of think you'll be fighting at?
My coaches want me around 250, 245. And, honestly, I'm walking around 255, 260. So after 45 days of camp, I'm going to be lucky to be 245. It's just kind of coming off right now. But it's thank you for the compliment.
No worries. We're always keeping an eye on you guys. Again, make sure to follow Jake on Twitter at RealJackSwagger. Thank you so much for your time. Best of luck with the training, and we can't wait to see who you fight next. Thank you so much, Jake.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Casper.